Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel. And I've been away quite a long time, the longest gap I've had yet in my 4 years on YouTube. And as some of you know, I have been suffering from some serious illness, which causes a great deal of fatigue. But for some reason, I had a sudden burst of energy both yesterday and today, so I figured it's time to do another video. It seems unrealistic to keep my channel going. On the other hand, I can't seem to let it go, so I persist. Anyways, the film I like to talk about today comes from 1957. It's The Sweet Smell of Success. It stars Tony Curtis and Burt Lancaster, you can see in the background. It's directed by Alexander MacKendrick, from a screenplay by Ernest Lehman and Clifford Odets, photographed by the great James Wong Howe, who has an opportunity to show us New York City in the nighttime, circa 1957. And it's a spectacular illustration of Howe's talent and how great black and white cinematography can be. So this is one of my favorite, I'll say right up front, this is a Criterion edition that was released, I believe, in 2012 maybe. Hasn't been upgraded to 4K yet, but it is still available. This is not out of print, so when the November Criterion sale comes up, this is one to put on your list if you've never seen it, because this is a great edition, and we'll get to why that is as we go along. Not just the movie, which is great, but all the extras. So Tony Curtis plays a press agent in New York City. This is the day of multiple newspapers in New York. Some of their most popular features were gossip columnist Walter Winchell, which this film is very closely based on, Dorothy Kilgallen and Ed Sullivan. And they relied on press agents to get their material. So Burt Lancaster plays a character called J.J. Hunsaker, and this is a very evil man. and he uses his power, and he has a great deal of power that went back to the 1930s. In the 50s, these columnists were actually going out of style. This was a property that goes back to the 1950s, but they thought it was too rough a subject for consumption, for a commercial movie. And so J.J. Hunsaker, who holds court at the 21 nightclub in New York City, has a special table all his own. He relies on these press agents, and Tony Curtis plays such a press agent, Sidney Falco. This is one of the great characters and performances, I think, in movie history, and it's done by Tony Curtis. So he has been a regular contributor to Walter Winchell's column in the sense he plants stories, and he gets his clients, who he represents, into Hunsaker's gossip column, which is a big deal because they get added notoriety. People will come to see them. But Sidney has been frozen out. He can't get, JJ is not letting any of Sidney's clients get into the column. And this is because Sidney has not performed a task for JJ that he wanted him to do, which was to break up the romance between JJ's 18-year-old sister, who he dotes on in some rather unusual ways, one is led to believe, with her romance, Susan's romance, with a jazz player. And so Sidney has tried, but he's not getting it done. So if he's not going to do this task, and JJ doesn't care how he does it, what unethical or awful ways he does it. He wants this romance broken up, which is the central plot element of the movie. And I would say you have to brace yourself for this movie. And I've seen this movie many, many times, but I probably haven't seen it since it came out I've rewatched this since this Criterion edition came out. It is one of the most darkest, is one of the most dark and cynical views of human nature you're ever going to see. JJ has no scruples whatsoever. He has so much power, and he wants to use it whenever he can. He has a connection with the New York police force. If he wants somebody punished physically, he can get it done. So Lancaster is playing this villainous part, and he plays it very well. But it's Curtis. This is Tony Curtis's movie, and up to this point, both of them had become big stars. But Lancaster, a sort of powerhouse star, A-list star. Curtis was considered a lightweight actor. He was a teenage heartthrob in 1957. He wanted to shed this image of himself and move into more adult roles to show that he could really act, and boy, he acts in this film. He's like a rat in a maze. He's really more like a snake. There's lots of animal references that run throughout this movie. Every dog will have his day, he says at one point. Sidney's ambition is to become J.J. Hunsaker, to live the high life and not be groveling around a gossip columnist. He wants to have his own column and live on top of the world. The American success story. Well, how far will he go? J.J. will go a long ways to get what he wants. He represents, as most of these gossip columnists do, the right-wing Red Scare kind of columnist. So he could smear people just by calling them a communist. The Red Scare, by the time the film was made, had sort of dissipated by this time. I think Joseph McCarthy had already been discredited, and he might have actually died before this film was released. But so Winchell would be sort of like a internet influencer today, smearing people, excuse me, spreading misinformation. He would land very comfortably in the 21st century, especially in the years we're living in right now. Sidney represents the American success story. What do I do to get success? Now, as I say, JJ has no scruples, but Sidney does. How far will he go? How far will he sell himself out? He realizes these things are evil. JJ does not. He has so much power, and that whatever he does he's sort of like the god of his universe. So we have two fantastic performances. If you never took Tony Curtis seriously as an actor, you got to see this film. So the 18-year-old sister, played by a newcomer, Susan Harrison, she and the jazz guitarist that she falls in love with, played by Martin Miller. Now and it's been said, if there's a flaw in the film, it's these two would appear to be miscasting. Certainly Martin Miller was not. It was a rather bland actor and went on to fame. This Route 66, Adam 12. Susan Harrison, I don't think went on to be have much of a career, but whatever talents they have for this kind of role, the director Alexander MacKendrick certainly pulls it off. And so Milner in the ultimate scene of confrontation between him and JJ acquits himself pretty well, and Susan Harrison in the climax of the film as well. She has a very unusual voice speech pattern. So this is all directed by Alexander MacKendrick, and what's he doing in America, filming a very dark kind of film noir. And he's known for his healing comedies, The Lady Killers and The Man in the White Suit. What's he doing here? Well, he was signed by Lancaster. I think it was Hill, Hecht, and Lancaster, a production company that had been very successful. They won the Academy Award with a movie they produced. Lancaster was in called Marty a couple of years before this. So he was signed to direct The Devil's Disciple, which was a George Bernard Shaw play that Lancaster and his and his partners wanted to produce with Lancaster playing in the film. He never actually got to play that role, but when Ernest Lehman, the original screenwriter, and he was this was targeted to be his directorial debut when he dropped out because of sickness. They called him MacKendrick to direct it, and he was actually an American. He was born in America, and his family moved to Great Britain, and which is why he was involved with the Ealing studio. So it was sort of like a coming home kind of film, but actually he was very young when they left the U.S. And Ernest Lehman, who wrote the screenplay, and again, this screenplay went back to around 1950. He had been a press agent in the late 40s for maybe 3 years. He knew Walter Winchell. He fed Walter Winchell's story, so there's a great deal of authenticity going on in this film. But he dropped out, and he was replaced as a screenwriter by Clifford Odets, who basically, the plot is the same as Lehman's original screenplay, but he basically rewrote everything. Every scene was rewritten by Odets. It was very poetic and very theatrical style, which MacKendrick did not like. He was in awe of the way Odets restructured scenes, but he never really believed in the theatrical dialogue that he was writing. Boy, this has got some quotes, that from Odets that you're probably never going to forget. And Odets, realizing that MacKendrick was uncomfortable with this dialogue, says, just play it fast. Play it fast. Don't worry about the poetic. Tell the actors, get through it. And this is a fast-paced movie. This movie moves fast. As fast as Tony Curtis moves in this film. Like I say, a kind of rat in a maze kind of performance. And MacKendrick also fills the background with people. So, the outdoor scenes, for sure, there's people everywhere. And an active New York City nightlife. But the interiors, all the interiors were filmed in Hollywood. They recreated both the 21 Club and the Stewart Club to scale. I mean, this was an actual recreation of these nightclubs that were very popular in the 1950s. And sometimes Odets was rewriting scenes right on. He would go into a trailer and just rewrite scenes, and they had a lot of conferences. So in many ways, this is one of the purest distillations of Odets' view of American life and his great talent for this kind of poetic theatrical dialogue. He came out of the 1930s with the group theater, Wake and Sing, The Golden Boy, which became a movie, and The Big Knife is another real, if you want to know the Clifford Odets style, this movie and The Big Knife are two also made in the 50s. Odets was on the House on American Activities list, did testify and did name names, as did one of the producers. Now, Lancaster was known as, a liberal. Nowadays, he would probably be called a Marxist by the right-wing government that we have today. But he was a liberal, but evidently they forgave the people who named names, at least in the 1950s. Far better probably than they're forgiven today. And again, I have to mention James Wong Howe, because this is just this is a masterpiece of black and white cinematography. And he was a veteran that went back to the silent film days, I think the last part of the silent film days. The score by Elmer Bernstein, this is a very noir score. It's very jazzy. It can be a little bit in your face, but I love it. I love Elmer Bernstein's score here. Now, as far as the extras on here, I love the artwork. It's also mimicked in the act, or expanded in the artwork. This is Susan as she is staring down the abyss on the 51st Street balcony. So we get in the extras, we get a great commentary by James Nairmore, who wrote a book on Sweet Smell of Success for the British Film Institute. So he knows this film inside out. We get a piece on James Wong Howe where we actually see him direct a possible scene and how it can be lit in certain ways. We get a scene. Neil Gabler wrote a book on Walter Winchell. Excuse me. He wrote a book on Walter Winchell, and so Walter Winchell was a lot more than just the evil figure that he was, the way he is depicted today, of course. But he did do evil things. In fact, the evil thing he does in real life is even worse than the one he does in the film. And then we get James Mangold, the current director, who studied under Alexander MacKendrick. MacKendrick would make 3 or 4 more films after this. None of them were very successful. Sammy Going South, High Wind in Jamaica, I want to revisit that film. And I know his last film was, I can't remember. It's with Tony Curtis, and it is a comedy that everybody despised. I've always loved it, and it's my mental incapacity is kicking in because I can't. Maybe it'll come to me before I finish this video, and then we get a booklet. And James Mangold, to get back to him, he studied under MacKendrick because MacKendrick finished his movie making career. He spent about 5 more years trying to get a project off the ground. The University of California started a film school, and he was made the dean of it, and he evidently was an incredible teacher. So we have a booklet here that comes with it, and this is, a robust, I reread it again from start to finish a couple days ago. It has an essay by Gary Giddens, who is also a music critic, so it's a very jazzy, but very informative, very entertaining essay. We get a recollection from Ernest Lehman as how the film, how his script developed and how the film developed. It was based on a novella by Lehman, and he wrote a couple short stories with the same characters, with Sidney and JJ, and they are included. Those 2 short stories are included, not the novella, but the 2 short stories, and excuse me, and then we get. Well, let's get to how the film, because I'm going on way too long. Let's get to how the film was received. It was a bomb, and Walter Winchell was very happy about that. But there is an irony to all that, because Walter Winchell was basically forgotten today. It's a name, but who the heck was he? He had not only had this column, but he had a very popular a radio show that was more popular than Jack Benny, and Benny was huge on radio. But today, how is he remembered? If he's ever going to be remembered, he's going to be remembered for the depiction that Burt Lancaster gives of him in Sweet Smell of Success. So that's pretty ironic. So this burst of energy I have, and I apologize for the coughing that has interrupted this video, and my voice being a bit raggedy. But if this burst of energy continues, I might actually come out with a couple more videos in the next week or so. And possibilities are a recent Warner Brothers release of Frank Borzegi's great 3 Comrades. I'm a huge Borzegi fan, and this is one of his 1930s classics. Needs to be more remembered. I also never done a video on Paul Schrader's Mishma, and loaded with extras, another criterion in the days when the extras were plentiful. Or I could do Woman in the Dunes, and look at this 3-film set, which includes The Face of Another, and what's the other one? Face of Another and Pitfall. Woman in the Dunes is from this set, this set is out of print. It's one of my treasured criterions. Woman in Dunes has a Blu-ray, but the other two have not. Woman in Dunes is by far the most famous of the three films, and that's another possibility. Okay, so I talked long enough, 20 minutes, wow. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you soon.